So you can see that fir right there. That probably wouldn't have been here in the past.
Mark Webb runs Blue Mountain Forest Partners, a nonprofit collaborative group formed 10 years ago. Loggers, environmentalists, scientists, politicians trying to find common ground. This area was logged heavily and without much oversight or thought for the land for a century. Environmental pressure finally gutted the timber industry in the 80s and 90s.
The environmental community increasingly litigated and shut us down. So they were impacting our livelihoods and what we knew and valued as a lifestyle. And when that happens, it just creates a lot of anger and distrust.
Less timber cutting meant more growth, more tree-killing beetle infestations, and more fuel for fires. Similar conditions exist across much of the Malhure's 1.4 million acres. But getting tree huggers and tree cutters to sit down to talk is never easy.
It doesn't happen until everyone's back is against the wall, until everyone is losing something. We weren't getting enough wood to stay afloat, keep our mills going. Our back was against the wall. Where the environmental community was losing was in terms of fire and insect damage.
The Forest Partners use grant money for forestry research and thinning projects. Volunteers contribute thousands of hours of work in the woods. The amount of timber coming out of the forest has tripled. Still far below peak production of the past, but enough to keep the local lumber mill operating and keep the log trucks rolling. But the U.S. Forest Service still has the final say on any local land management proposals.
But frankly, we live in a legal and legislative framework where this is public land. It is subject to public process.
Others applaud the efforts on the Malheur, but like Doug Minear in Harney County, many call them a drop in the bucket. He works for a company that buys and sells milling machinery, but has no local customers left. This nearby mill used to be the area's biggest employer. The enormous buildings are used to dry hay now.
Harney County just keeps getting smaller and smaller. People, finally just can't hang on anymore, and they move out of town.
Mark Webb does see hope.
It involves communication, being honest about where you're coming from and where you want to go, and being willing to admit that you've been mistaken in the past about maybe what was the best way to do things. If you can have those kind of conversations, then public land management can move forward in really productive, good ways.
Alan Schaffler, Al Jazeera, John Day, Oregon.